For 10 years, I was trapped in the world of a novel, a player in a game with one objective: win the heart of Sophia Russo, the tragic supporting character. I succeeded. She chose me over the novel's original hero, married me, and we had a daughter. Then one night, after a week of grueling client dinners, I collapsed from exhaustion right in front of them. It didn't even flinch. Instead, Sophia took the Porsche I bought her, buckled our daughter in, and drove to the hero's house, Julian Vance's house. They left me to spend the night alone in an ER, hooked up to an 4-drip. When I confronted them on Julian's doorstep the next morning, Sophia was the first to speak, her voice as cold as the divorce papers she would soon have drawn up. "It's over, Ethan. This isn't a life I want. Julian is the one I've always loved." What truly broke me was when my own daughter, the little girl I adored, echoed her mother's words. "Just let us go," she pleaded, her small face tight with disdain. "You're not good enough for us. We belong with Uncle Julian." So, I gave them what they wanted. I agreed to the divorce and returned to my own world. But the system had sent me there had one last message for me. They regret everything. When the hospital chemicals still clung to me, a fog in my brain, but I dragged myself to find Sophia and my daughter. Sophia's face twisted in annoyance the moment she saw me. "I was just catching up with Julian. Did you really have to follow me here?" "I am so sick of this," she seethed. "I never should have married you. I have no freedom, and now I have you chasing me, accusing me of God knows what. I'm calling a lawyer when we get back. I want a divorce." My own daughter, Chloe, stared at me as if I were a monster. The system's 4-year-old declaration of mission accomplished felt like a slap across the face. The decade I had poured into winning Sophia's heart, the sacrifices I had made, it all felt meaningless. Sophia had raised Chloe to worship Julian Vance, and the distance between my daughter and me had grown into a chasm. I'd been so consumed with running the company. I told myself she was just acting out because I worked too much. Last night shattered that illusion. Years of late nights and nonstop stress had finally caught up. My body gave out. As I hit the floor, my vision blurring, the two people I loved most in the world just glanced down. They watched me convulse and then stepped right over me. Sophia took Chloe's hand, got into the Porsche I'd bought her, and drove to Julian's for the night. With the last of my strength, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 myself. I spent the night in a cold, sterile hospital room, watching the 4-bag drip completely alone. The next morning, I dragged my exhausted body to Julian's house and waited. I was still clinging to a sliver of hope. "Sophia, I'm giving you one last chance," I said, struggling to keep my voice from shaking. "Just bring Chloe home with me now, and we can pretend none of this ever happened." "Get out of our way. You're so annoying." My daughter, Chloe, shoved me hard. "I hate you so much. You're not fun. You don't know how to make mommy happy, and all you ever do is work," she yelled. "Why can't you be a real man and give us some space? You're the most pathetic man in the world. You're not even as cool as Uncle Julian's pinky finger. All you ever do is tell me to do my homework and turn off the cartoons. Mommy and Uncle Julian belong together." Her innocent face was filled with a contempt that mirrored her mother's. "You're the biggest loser in the world, and I hate you." Sophia watched it all with a smirk. Julian stood beside them, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. Since he'd reappeared in Sophia's life, he barely had to lift a finger. A furrowed brow from him was enough to make her give him anything. I knew for a fact that this very house was a gift from Sophia, bought with my money so he'd have a comfortable place to rest. "Fine," I said, my heart turning to ice. "You want a divorce? You've got it." Chloe's face lit up. "You're finally leaving mommy alone," she chirped. "Good. Now Uncle Julian can be my new daddy." Her words were daggers, shredding what was left of my heart. My precious daughter, the one I had spoiled and showered with affection, now stood with my wife and another man, looking at me like I was garbage. To my wife, Sophia Russo was the tragic supporting character in the novel. She was supposed to marry her childhood sweetheart, the hero Julian Vance, but her family went bankrupt and he fell for the female lead. In the original story, her role was to pathetically cling to their childhood memories, hoping for a scrap of his attention. After watching him marry the heroine in a lavish wedding, she killed herself. My mission was to save her. I spent 10 years on it, and somewhere along the way, I fell completely in love with her. I ached for her, crushed under her family's debt and heartbroken over a man who didn't want her. I was determined to rewrite her fate. I worked myself to the bone to pay off her family's debts. When she was miserable over Julian, I was the one who stayed up all night making her laugh. 4 years ago, during a multi-car pileup on the freeway, I threw myself over her without a second thought. She walked away with minor bruises. I was rushed into emergency surgery. When I finally woke up, she was there, crying and laughing at the same time, hugging me and promising we'd be together forever. That was the day the system declared my mission a success. When it offered me the reward, a one-way ticket back to my own reality, I turned it down. I chose to stay with her. I even told her everything about the system, the novel, my choice to remain in her world for her. She was deeply moved and swore she would love me forever. Soon after, we had our beautiful daughter. I thought we were happy. I thought we had made it. But the moment Julian Vance came back, everything changed. I gave Chloe the best of everything. The most exclusive preschool, the most expensive toys, private tutors for anything she showed an interest in. I built a fortress of security and comfort for my family, working day and night to grow my company. No matter how exhausted I was, I always came home with a smile and a gift. On weekends, I took them shopping and never once complained. But all of it, every sacrifice, meant nothing compared to a single smile from Julian Vance. I wasn't completely blind. I knew they were in contact. It started when Chloe casually said, "Why can't I have a handsome dad like Uncle Julian?" Sophia's face flushed with guilt. But when I questioned her, her guilt instantly hardened into resentment. "Can you stop interrogating me? Julian and I are just friends. Are you really going to get worked up over a joke from a 5-year-old? The memories flooded back, each one a fresh sting of betrayal. All my years of devotion had earned me nothing but their contempt. They hurt me without a second thought, dismissing my entire existence. Watching them walk away with Julian, I felt a deep, chilling cold spread through me despite the summer heat. Back at the office, I called my lawyer and told him to start drafting the divorce papers. Just then, the system's familiar chime echoed in my head. Host's mission target and original male lead are exhibiting anomalous behavior. The central system will issue compensation to the host. I froze. "System, I don't understand," I said, my voice raw. "I gave them everything. A perfect life. It wasn't enough." "Host, you were naive. An attachment built on materialism and hero worship is inherently fragile. Once the object of her original obsession reappeared, there was a 90% probability that the mission target would betray you." I had no response. She fell for him all over again, just like that. Based on a comprehensive analysis, the host's efforts have been more than sufficient. The core issue lies with Sophia Russo's character defects. Therefore, the central system has determined there is no longer a compelling reason for you to remain in this narrative. 3. So that's it. I bit out. I'm just supposed to watch her take my daughter and ride off into the sunset with another man. Negative. The central system is offering you the chance to return to your original reality. Should you accept, you will be granted bonus points to ensure a successful new beginning. And if I stay, you will proceed on your own. However, the system will provide legal support to ensure a favorable outcome in your divorce proceedings. I paused, thinking, what was there to stay for? But I couldn't just let them walk away without facing any consequences. I choose to finalize the divorce first. Then I'll go back. Acknowledged. According to available data, Chloe Miller is not your biological daughter. This information will be crucial to your legal case. What? The words hit me like a physical blow. Chloe isn't mine. Sophia, you betrayed me on a level I never could have imagined. The world tilted and spun. A wave of blackness washed over me, and I collapsed. When I came to, I was back in a hospital bed. 2 collapses in 2 days. My chest ached with a dull, heavy pain. The system ran a diagnostic and confirmed it was just stress, but recommended I stay for observation. During my stay, I secretly had a paternity test done. The results were conclusive. I had no biological connection to Chloe. I had my assistant do some digging, and the evidence was damning. Sophia had been meeting Julian since the first year of our marriage. Hotel receipts, candid photos, it was all there. I swallowed my rage, compiled the evidence, and sent it all to my lawyer. If Sophia thought she was getting a cent of my money, she was in for a rude awakening. The day after I was discharged, Sophia and Chloe stormed at my office. She slammed a credit card down on my desk. "Ethan Miller, what is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "This is my card. Why did you cancel it?" Chloe glared at me. "Daddy, are you trying to punish Mommy? You're being so petty. You think this will make us come crawling back?" she sneered. "Forget it. We don't like you. After you and Mommy get divorced, I'm never calling you Daddy again." I closed my eyes, the pain of physical weight in my chest. I could have tolerated Sophia's betrayal, her coldness, her complaints. But every word from Chloe was like a hammer blow to my heart. "Sophia," I said, my voice dangerously quiet, "have I been too good to you? Everything you and your daughter have, the clothes on your backs, the food you eat, this entire lifestyle, it's all because of me. Without me, you wouldn't survive a week." In that moment, the facade of our family shattered completely. "What? What did you say?" Sophia stared at me, dumbfounded. "How dare you speak to me like that?" She was so used to me being the compliant, doting husband that my sudden backbone left her speechless. Chloe, sensing her mother's hesitation, puffed out her chest. "We don't need your stupid money, Mom. Uncle Julian is way better than him. He promised he'd take care of us and give us an even better life." Buoyed by Chloe's support, Sophia's confidence returned. "She's right, Ethan. You're just a pathetic, spineless loser. I was on the fence before, but now I see it clearly. You aren't worth a single strand of Julian's hair." They turned and stormed out my office. For before leaving, Sophia spun around and unleashed her fury on my employees. "What are you all staring at?" she shrieked. "I could have every single one of you fired." The office fell silent, my team frozen in a mix of shock and fear. I walked out of my office, my voice low and cutting. "Sophia, shut up. What gives you the right to scream at people in my company? When I loved you, you were the moon and the stars. Now that I don't, you're less than nothing to me. My pride as a man, my dignity as a father, they had torn it to shreds. The system helped my lawyer optimize the divorce settlement. Given the target's infidelity, the host's probability of winning the case is high, it informed me. However, forcing her to walk away with nothing will be difficult. Marital assets are typically divided. The simulation indicates you can minimize her share, but not eliminate it. I lit a cigarette. "What if I transfer the assets?" After a moment, the system replied, frowny face affirmative. "That method is viable." I was going to make them understand that they would never again find someone who would give them the world. Sophia had forgotten one crucial detail. She had grown so accustomed to a life of effortless luxury that she'd forgotten who had pulled her out of the desperate debt that once consumed her. Where was her beloved hero then? Thanks to me, she was living like a pampered socialite again. I had even supported her return to her passion for dance. Sophia had only known about 2 years of actual hardship in her entire life. She was a hothouse flower. If I decided to play hardball, she wouldn't stand a chance. I immediately began moving my assets. As for the luxury condo I'd bought that she'd gifted to Julian, that was marital property. A gift of that magnitude required my consent. I could sue to get it back. That evening, a new post appeared on Sophia's Instagram. It was a smiling selfie of her, Chloe, and Julian. The caption read, "Destiny always finds a way. Life is only complete when you're with your soulmate." I stared at the post for a long moment. Then, I tapped the screen and liked it. 5 back at our house, I opened the safe, removed the account passbooks, property deeds, and every other valuable item. Then, I changed the combination. Sophia's personal savings wouldn't last long. She was used to a life of absurd extravagance. If a $5,000 designer bag displeased her, she'd toss it and buy the $15,000 limited edition version. She only dined in the most expensive private rooms, ordering imported caviar and a vintage champagne. Her Instagram feed was a curated gallery of luxury brands, 5-star restaurants, and yacht parties. She was living a life funded by my sweat and blood, all while complaining I wasn't good enough. 3 days later, Sophia finally returned home with Chloe. She went straight to the safe in our bedroom. When she found the code had been changed, her face turned livid. She marched up to me, her voice dripping with condescension. "Ethan, did you change the password? That is our joint property. You have no right." Chloe glared at me with pure hatred. "Chloe, I'm going to give you one last chance," I said, taking a deep breath. Come here and call me Dad. And I can forget what you've said. I still wanted to give her an out. Even if she wasn't mine by blood, I had raised her from birth. Chloe took 2 steps back and sneered. I don't want to call you Dad. A man like Uncle Julian is the only one good enough for my mom. You're just a useless outsider. You don't even belong in this world. I hate you, she screamed. Uncle Julian is going to take care of us. He's the real hero of the story. The daughter I had raised was now a complete stranger. I knew, of course, that these were Sophia's ideas, poisoned into Chloe's mind over years. When I chose to stay in this world, I had told Sophia everything about the system and my mission. At first, she was touched, but over time, she began to use it against me, treating me with a cold indifference, confident that I would never leave. She even told our daughter I was from another world, completely unafraid that a young child might let that secret slip and put me in unimaginable danger. I had swallowed so much pain for Chloe and for this family. Now I saw myself for what I was, a fool drowning in my own self-delusion. Sophia, you have no right to stand there and lecture me. Without me, you wouldn't have just missed your reunion with your hero. You might not even be alive. I stepped closer to her, my voice a low growl. Enjoy this little fantasy while it lasts. My lawyer is preparing the divorce papers. Don't expect a single dime from me to fund Julian's lifestyle. Sophia froze. For the first time, I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. You're serious? She stammered. She thought threatening divorce was a weapon she could use forever, that I would always fold. Let's do it. Chloe cheered from the sidelines. Awesome. Now we're free, and Uncle Julian can be my dad. She then added smugly, and we already talked to a lawyer. After you and Mom divorce, you still have to pay my child support. 6, I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. It was incredible what a 5-year-old could learn. The 2 people who were once my entire world had become the source of my deepest pain. That kind of agony can either break a man or forge him in something hard and unforgiving. Sophia, believe me, I said, locking eyes with her. Within 3 months, you will be on your knees, begging me. Her only response was a derisive snort. In your dreams. Having found no money, Sophia left in a huff, dragging Chloe with her. I stood at the second-floor window and watched the red Porsche, the car I bought for her, drive away, now serving as Julian's personal ride. I knew exactly how much money she had left. Not much. Julian must have sent her back for a cash infusion. The next day, Sophia arrived with her lawyer. Julian was with them, clearly there for moral support. Their lawyer got straight to the point. Mr. Miller, I'm here on behalf of Ms. Russo to compile an inventory of marital assets. This is a necessary step for the divorce proceedings to move forward. I was ready for them. My lawyer, Leo Martinez, was more than prepared. Leo presented our list of marital assets, including real estate and company shares. The total value of our shared property came to a grand total of $73,000. Sophia's lawyer frowned at her. Ms. Russo, what is this? You told me there were tens of millions in assets. He lowered his voice. This looks like a deliberate transfer of marital assets. I let out a small, cold laugh. What did Sophia know about business? Her days were spent shopping, dining, and sleeping with Julian. She had no clue about our actual financial situation. She stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief at my ruthlessness. Leo remained calm. Please refrain from making baseless accusations against my client. As you know, running a business involves profits and losses. A recent deal went south, and Mr. Miller's company suffered a significant loss. Therefore, the shared assets have been diminished. However, he continued, despite Ms. Russo's infidelity, Mr. Miller is still willing to offer a settlement of $40,000. Furthermore, he will provide $4,000 a month in child support for his daughter. Sophia's lawyer was stunned into silence. Chloe, however, shrieked, for $1,000 a month. What can you even do with that? No way. I want $40,000. I smiled grimly. My dear daughter, $4,000 is for child support. But if it turns out you're not my biological daughter, I wouldn't have to give you a dime. At those words, a flash of pure panic crossed Sophia's face. She quickly masked it with outrage. How dare you? You'd slander your own daughter just to avoid paying support. I was so wrong about you, Ethan. You owe us an apology. She was so brazen, so sure of herself. She had no idea the system had come back, that it had uncovered her deepest secret. Her righteous indignation was almost comical. Sophia, Sophia, Sophia. I sighed, the sound dripping with pity. Did I spoil you so much that you forgot I'm a man, not a doormat? I paid off your family's debt. I funded your lavish lifestyle. And now you stand here with your lover, demanding half of my fortune. Who are you calling a lover? Julian snapped. Watch your mouth, Ethan. Sophia shot back, defending him. Chloe ran over and started pummeling my leg with her tiny fists. You can't say mean things about Uncle Julian. I'll beat you up. I ignored them and walked away. With the evidence I had, I wasn't afraid to drag this out. Besides, Sophia was running out of cash. I had just gotten into my car when she chased after me, her tone uncharacteristically subdued. Ethan, can you at least reactivate my credit card? I don't care about myself, she said, trying a different tactic. But Chloe, whatever else is going on, she's still your daughter. Are you really going to let her starve? I cut her off. Sophia, do you honestly think I'm that stupid? Julian is back. He's more than willing to play house with you too. Why don't you ask him for money? You always cared so much about your image as an artist. How does it feel, begging the man you're about to divorce for a handout? Her face went pale with rage. Ethan, don't forget I know about you in that system. Don't think I won't tell people. If you know what's good for you, you'll give me the money. Or better yet, you can bail out Julian's company and solve this crisis. I scoffed. She had no idea that I could leave this world at any moment, that her threats were empty. She also had no idea that Julian had been lying to her from the moment he reappeared. The system had already filled me in. Julian's company was bankrupt. He had even staged an accident to kill his own wife, the novel's original heroine, for a massive insurance payout. That money was what he'd been using to fool Sophia, and now it was gone. That's why he was so desperate for her to divorce me. Go ahead, I said, my voice flat. Tell anyone you want. See who they call crazy. I rolled up the window and drove away. For the next 3 days, I lived at the office. My motivation to grow the company had vanished. All I wanted was to end this farce and return to my real life. To see a movie, take a walk in the park, have a drink at a bar without a care in the world. Simple things I hadn't had time for in years. To provide for Sophia and Chloe's extravagant lifestyle, I'd given up every last piece of myself. I was in my office planning the transition for my successor when the system chimed in again. Host, additional intelligence acquired. Julian Vance developed a severe gambling addiction while abroad. His debts total in the tens of millions. This is the primary reason for his company's insolvency. I wasn't surprised. The insurance money should have been enough for him to start over. The only reason to target Sophia was a desperate need for fast, easy cash. Gambling fit the profile perfectly. The system beeped again, informing me that Sophia and Julian had a massive fight about money. And right now, Sophia was waiting by my new car in the parking garage, trying to ambush me. When I got downstairs, I found her there, her eyes red and swollen. She had clearly been crying. Is this Lamborghini really yours? She asked, her voice trembling with accusation. I thought you said you had no money. The company accounts are drained, I said with a cold smile. I never said anything about my personal finances. Sophia, are you incredibly naive or just stupid? I noticed then that her expensive jewelry, the designer watch, the luxury handbag, all of it was gone. She must have sold them. She stared at me, her expression lost. You've changed, Ethan. You're a stranger. You promised you would love me forever. The words were so absurd, I almost laughed. Instead, I pulled the DNA test result from my briefcase and threw them at her. That's because I was a fool, I snarled. I thought if I gave you everything, we could have a happy life together. And what did I get in return? Her eyes fell on the report. The color drained from her face, and she stumbled back, shaking her head. No, it's impossible. We were so careful. She clamped her mouth shut, realizing what she'd said. Careful about what? Your little plan? I scoffed. Get out of my sight, Sophia. You're just here for money. By the way, I forgot to tell you. Your precious Julian, the man who was supposed to be your happily ever after, he's bankrupt. He's been playing you from the start. I tossed a file containing Julian's financial records at her feet. She picked it up, and as she read, she looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. He was willing to kill the woman he supposedly loved for an insurance payout. What makes you think you meant anything to him? I said, my voice devoid of emotion. You're a tragic character, Sophia. You really are. You were so desperate to be with your storybook hero. Well, congratulations. Now you can be stuck with him forever. With every word, her body trembled more violently. I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sense of sorrow. The great love I had fought for, the woman I had crossed worlds for, had been duped by a monster. And the daughter I had raised wasn't even mine. Back at Julian's, Sophia confronted him. They had a vicious fight that ended with him beating her. Chloe stood by, too terrified to even cry. 2 days later, they showed up at my office again. I had already instructed security to block them. If they caused a scene, they were to call the police. The guards, loyal to the man who signed their paychecks, didn't hesitate to turn them away. Later that night, as I was leaving to meet some investors at a bar, they cornered me outside the building. Sophia's face was a canvas of bruises. I, who had once been afraid to even hurt her feelings, now saw her battered by the man she had chosen over me. She took off her sunglasses, revealing a swollen, blackened eye. Julian hadn't held back. "Ethan, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was wrong." Julian kept pressuring me for money. I see now it was because his company was gone, and he was drowning in debt. When I couldn't give him any more, he convinced me to divorce you for the settlement. I was a fool. "I don't want a divorce anymore, please." Chloe tried to run to me, but I sidestepped her, my face a mask of indifference. "Daddy, I'm sorry," she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. "We shouldn't have said those things to you." She looked utterly pitiful. I looked down at her, my voice flat. "Didn't you say you hated me for making you practice piano and not letting you watch cartoons? Your wish came true. I'm not your father. No one will be there to nag you anymore. You should be happy." Chloe's face went white. She looked helplessly at her mother. Sophia shrieked, "For God's sake, Ethan, can't you be the bigger man? What does blood have to do with anything? Didn't you raise her? Didn't she call you daddy for years?" Then her tone shifted, becoming venomous. "You're a cold-blooded monster. Julian was right about you. You people who come into our worlds are all the same. The second your mission is done, you throw us away like trash." I stared at her, overwhelmed by a deep, weary sadness. "Do you have any idea how insane you sound right now? For years, did I ever criticize you for anything? You believed every lie Julian fed you and refused to listen to a single word I said. And you wanted to be the bigger man? I didn't force you to cheat on me. And it was Chloe who said she didn't want me as her father. Do you really feel no shame when you say these things, Sophia? I'm not a heartless person." Sophia was right about one thing. Chloe may not have been my biological daughter, but I had poured my entire soul into raising her. In my heart, she was mine, but the child I raised had turned into an ungrateful stranger. She had learned arrogance and cruelty from her mother, had learned how to turn words into weapons to pierce my heart. "Ethan Miller, don't think you can get away with this just because you hid the money," Sophia spat, her voice filled with malice. "If you make our lives miserable, we'll make sure you never have a moment of peace." She shot me one last hateful glare and tried to pull Chloe away. She was trying to use my lingering affection for the girl to manipulate me. But, to both our surprise, Chloe didn't move. She stood rooted to the spot, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. "Daddy, I was wrong," she choked out. "Please don't make me leave. These last few weeks, I don't have any pretty dresses. I can't have my favorite ice cream. Uncle Julian lied to us. He doesn't have any money to take care of us." She tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. She lunged again, and again I held her back. "Isn't this the life you wanted?" I asked coldly. Finally, Sophia dragged her away. Chloe kept looking back at me, her face a mess of tears and confusion. As I drove off, I saw them standing at a street food cart. The vendor was selling things like hot dogs and mini donuts. They bought a small box of donuts. Sophia divided them, giving herself the larger portion and handing the smaller one to Chloe. In that moment, I finally understood. They were selfish to their very core. The years of neglect and blame I had endured. The problem was never with me. I looked at the mother and daughter, and all I felt was a cold, burning anger. The system's voice echoed in my mind. "Host, your reward can be dispensed at any time. Do you wish to return to your original reality now?" I shook my head, pushing down the rage. This world may have started as a novel, but after 10 years, It was my reality. I couldn't just leave without seeing this through. System, I need your help, I said quietly. I'm going to make Sophia pay. After a brief pause, it responded. Understood. I can provide you with key information. The execution will be up to you. I nodded and walked back into my company's lobby. Sophia's parents were there, screaming at the receptionist, and had even started hitting her. My anger flared. Everybody stopped. The lobby fell silent. All eyes turned to me. Sophia's parents spun around, their faces contorted with hostility. Ethan Miller, you heartless bastard, her mother shrieked. How could you do this to my daughter? I laughed coldly. What did I do to her? Was I the one who cheated? I turned to the terrified receptionist. Megan, are you okay? Go to the nurse's office, get that checked out, and then file a report for assault. Our legal team will handle it. Megan gave me a grateful look and hurried away. I took out my phone and called the head of security. Get your team to the lobby now. Escort these two out. If they resist, call the police. Sophia's father's face turned purple with rage. You wouldn't dare. We're here to get justice for our daughter. Look at the mess you've made of her life. You want to talk about your daughter? I said, my voice dangerously low. You should ask her what she's been doing behind my back. Years ago, right after we got married, your precious daughter was sneaking around with Julian Vance. The child she gave birth to isn't even mine. Now, she has the audacity to bring him to my doorstep and demand a divorce so she can take half my assets. I have given her everything, and how has she repaid me? After I broke them, they want to come back and play house to enjoy the life I built with my blood and sweat. Life doesn't work that way. Sophia's mother started shoving me. It takes two to tango. If my daughter did something wrong, you must have pushed her to it. I don't care, this company is half hers. And my granddaughter's child support, $10,000 a month, not a penny less. I know you have the money. It finally dawned on me. It wasn't just Sophia and Chloe. Her whole family was cut from the same rotten cloth. I had paid off their debts after their bankruptcy. They lived in a luxury home I bought for them, on an allowance I provided. And now, at the first sign of trouble, their only thought was how to squeeze more money out of me. The police arrived. After reviewing the security footage and taking statements, they prepared to take Sophia's parents in for questioning pending the assault evaluation. Unbelievably, the couple, so used to getting their way, actually pulled out a small pocket knife and waved it at the officers. I almost had a laugh. Not everyone was going to coddle them the way I had. They were quickly subdued, cuffed, and stuffed into a squad car. They were looking at jail time, no question. Sophia, meanwhile, was so obsessed with getting my money that she didn't even care about her arrested parents. Chloe just glared at me. You're a monster. I hate you. I thought her words might still hurt, but after everything I'd seen, I felt nothing. I knew I would never look back. The court date was 2 days away. I was ready. Sophia was about to lose everything. The trial was a formality. Sophia was so broke, she had to use a third-rate public defender Julian found for her. Faced with the mountain of evidence I had, infidelity, the paternity test, the fraudulent property transfer, her lawyer was left speechless. The verdict was swift. Sophia would leave the marriage with nothing. As she stood there in the courtroom, utterly defeated, I looked at Chloe, standing alone and confused. In a final act of something, pity perhaps, I committed to paying $2,000 a month in child support. My conscience was clear. As for Julian, I forwarded all the evidence the system had provided on his financial crimes and insurance fraud to the district attorney's office. As I walked out of the courthouse, Sophia ran and knelt before me in front of everyone. Ethan, please, she begged. Just give me $100,000. Julian is threatening me. He said if I don't give him the money, he'll post the videos. The videos of us. To all my friends and family. Sophia was obsessed with her image. Public humiliation of that kind would be worse than death for her. Is that so? I asked, feigning surprise. She nodded desperately. I threw my head back and laughed. That's fantastic. What a great day. Oh, and by the way, I added, get your things out of the house immediately. I've had security cameras installed. If you touch a single valuable item, I will have you arrested and you can have a family reunion with your parents in jail. She stared at me, tears streaming down her face, unable to comprehend how the man who once worshipped her could be so cruel. Putting all this aside, Ethan, are you really completely blameless? She cried. Didn't you promise to love and protect me forever. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me one time? I didn't really want to divorce you. You don't love me anymore. You must have found someone else. Her words were so delusional, I could only laugh. Get lost, Sophia. And one more thing. I'm giving Chloe $2,000 a month for her expenses. If I find out you've touched a single penny of it, you'll regret it. I had just gotten in my car when I saw Julian storm out of the courthouse in the rearview mirror. He grabbed Sophia and started hitting her right there on the steps. You useless bitch, he screamed. Because of you, my company's being investigated. You've ruined me. He was furious. The shell company he'd started was funded by the money Sophia had secretly funneled for me. I had, of course, instructed my lawyers to reclaim every possible asset. Most of it was already gone, lost to his gambling addiction. I knew I'd never see the millions he'd squandered. This, I thought with a grim sense of finality, was the happy ending Sophia had been chasing. I was about to call the system and leave this world for good when Chloe appeared in front of my car. She was still wearing the little princess dress I bought her, now stained and dirty. She looked up at me with pleading eyes. Daddy, can you take me home? Please? I won't hate you anymore. I don't have good food or toys. I was wrong. Daddy, you always treated me the best. I hate Mommy. It's all her fault. A crafty look entered her eyes. Daddy, when I grow up, will you buy me a company too? I got out of the car and crouched down in front of her, my heart strangely calm. I will continue to provide for your living expenses until you are an adult. You will receive $2,000 a month. That is all. Go find your mother. I've chosen to return to my own world. You will never see me again. She jutted out her lip and stubbornly refused to move from in front of the car. Her eyes were filled with confusion and a childish greed. I hate Mommy and I hate Julian. Daddy was the nicest to me. Please don't be mad anymore, Daddy. I'll be good. I miss my playroom. I can't sleep when I'm not in my own bed. Even now, every word out of her mouth was about the material possessions she had lost. If she had shown a single, genuine shred of affection, my resolve might have wavered. But she hadn't. I gently moved her aside, got back in the car, and drove away without looking back. It wasn't about being cruel. It was about recognizing that this world, this life, was an accident. My faith in this marriage, in these people, was gone. Perhaps when I returned to my own reality, I would live life on my own terms, but I knew one thing for sure. I would never marry or have children again. It didn't take long to wrap things up. I handed over control of the company to a trusted successor and donated my personal assets to charity. During that time, Sophia and Chloe would wait for me outside the office every day. The new security guards followed my orders to the letter and never let them inside. No matter how much they cried or begged, I never gave them another cent. The program activated, and my consciousness faded from that world. The first I heard of Sophia again was through the system, which still provided occasional updates. It showed me a video feed. She was working as a waitress at a banquet hall, her former grace and confidence replaced by a weary desperation. What about Julian? I asked. The male lead is using intimate photos and videos to blackmail the female supporting character, the system reported. He is forcing her to work at a hostess club to earn money to bribe his connections for a reduced prison sentence. I laughed out loud, and he was the one who was going to give them a happy ending. The system also told me that after their fallout, Julian had terrorized them daily. He would beat them, scream at them, and sometimes withhold food. He was still convinced they could get more money from me. When I heard that his threats meant Chloe wasn't even getting the support money I'd left for her, a spark of anger flared. I still had leftover points from the system's compensation package, points that had set me up for a comfortable, worry-free life back in my reality. I used some of them to ask the system for one last intervention. In prison, Julian had an accident. He slipped and hit his head. He fell into a deep coma from which he would never wake up. And, of course, there was no money for his medical care. 6 months later, the system checked in again. Sophia and her family were living in poverty, crammed into a dilapidated apartment in a rough part of the city. The once renowned dancer was now a supermarket cashier. Her parents were forced to work, too. Her father as a security guard, her mother selling vegetables at market stall. Sophia's designer clothes were gone, replaced by worn, cheap outfits. Her face was haggard, a pale shadow of the radiant woman she once was. As I watched the feed, She was walking home from her shift. She looked up at the moon and suddenly broke down, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan," she sobbed to the empty street. "I regret it. I finally understand how good you were to us. It was me. I was blind. It turns out the world without you is a cold, cruel place." She crumpled to the sidewalk, her body shaking with sobs. I silently closed the feed. The hatred was gone. "Sophia," I whispered to myself, "there are no second chances. Once it's over, it's over." A year later, Sophia found a new job. She was a capable woman, after all, and landed a position as an office clerk that provided a modest but stable income. And me, in my own world, my real world, I met someone. A woman with clear eyes and a smile that felt like sunshine. We fell in love. The heart I thought was frozen began to thaw. I told her everything, the whole unbelievable story about living inside a novel. She just blinked at me, her eyes sparkling, and smiled. "Well then," she said, taking my hand, "let's write a new story together, just for us." And just like that, the words I once said to Sophia found their true meaning. Real love, I realized, wasn't about completing a mission. It was about finding someone who cherished the gift.